Namaste, my name is Rohil and today I'm going to be explaining about the Trishtan method within Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga. So Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga is a more dynamic form of yoga. It's a vinyasa. So the word vinyasa means movement with breath. So when we link movement with breath, that becomes a vinyasa. So Ashtanga Vinyasa is a yoga practice, an asana practice, but also beyond an asana practice, where Ashtanga means 8 limbs. So we are trying to integrate these 8 limbs into a vinyasa practice, into a movement with breath. I won't be explaining the 8 limbs in this video because I want to touch mainly on Trishtan. So Trishtan, 3 means 3 and Sthan means pillars. So they are the 3 pillars of our practice. So the 3 pillars are Bandha, Drishti and breath. So of course, I would consider also interchanging Bandha with posture. So posture, drishti and breath. So posture being something which we are doing, which we are sort of making our physical practice mold into, and bandha being a subcategory of that, something that's very important to facilitate the correct posture. So when I say posture, I mean, of course, awareness of where our body is in space. So that awareness of alignment. It's not just doing something without awareness. So in this sense, posture means that awareness on the body's position. Drishti means gaze or focal point. So where we are focusing our eyes and our attention on while we are doing our practice. This is an important part of the Ashtanga Vinyasa system. And the breath, of course, the way we breathe. So the breath has to be in Ujjayi. Ujjayi is victorious breath. So we are breathing by making a slight sound at the back of the throat. So there's a slight constriction at the back of the throat. So one way to easily visualize this is to imagine that you are trying to fog up a glass. So with your mouth open, you're so that's the basic foundation of this breath. Now, we of course don't want to breathe with our mouth open. Nowhere in the practice are we breathing with our mouth open. So we are keeping the mouth closed, but we want that same kind of constriction at the back of the throat. So it would sound something like this. It shouldn't be too harsh. It shouldn't be forced, that sound. It should be just a small sound which ideally just you or the people right around you should be able to hear. So it's not a sound that should fill up the entire room. Now, why we breathe in Ujjayi is first of all because it heats up the body. It creates heat in the body and it forces us to breathe deeply, deep diaphragmatic breathing. So we want to breathe into the belly with each breath and every exhale, letting the belly sink in. So when people say Uddiyana Bandha, which I will explain later, they always tell us to suck our belly in as we are breathing. But this is not completely right. We don't want to suck our entire belly in because we still want to access that diaphragmatic breathing. So we just want to have a slight tuck in, especially the lower abdomen. So why also we make a sound when we breathe is because it sort of brings our attention to the breath. So this is a self-practice, Ashtanga Vinyasa, where we are not following. It's not a call and follow. So the teacher is not demonstrating and then we look at the teacher and then we follow along. Ideally, this is a practice that we develop a self-practice for. So we are just doing the practice and the teacher is coming to us and making adjustments or telling us to change our alignment, etc. So we follow a set pattern or a set sequence during the practice. So when the practice is so internal, it's so individual, we must have an anchor, and that the breath is an anchor. So we are trying to anchor so that our thoughts don't go onto other things, onto more mundane things, and we are trying to be anchored only with the breath. So that's one, the breath. And then the second, of course, is the posture and the bandhas that are a part of the posture. So we have the 3 main bandhas. We have the Mula Bandha, which is the root chakra. So when we engage these bandhas, especially the Mula Bandha, which is the root, which is found at the perineum, for women between the 2 holes, and for men between the testicles and the anus. So the Mula Bandha is a muscle that sort of brings our pelvic floor into action in all the postures. So just that, we can just try it now to slightly engage the Mula Bandha, contract those muscles, and then relaxing the Mula Bandha. Engaging, contracting, and then relaxing. So what this does is that the bandhas are power centers in the body. They are responsible for circulating energy in particular parts of the body, but they are also responsible for the correct activation of particular muscles in the part of the body which the bandha is associated with. So the Mula Bandha, the root, is associated with the legs. So it's responsible for the circulation of energy within our legs, and it's also responsible for the way we engage the muscles, especially around that area, around the pelvic region. So most of our big muscle groups are attaching in that region. For instance, the hamstring, the butt hamstring, the glutes, the piriformis, there are so many, the adductors, there are many muscles in that region. And so when we just have that slight engagement of the Mula Bandha, we are automatically engaging all of these muscles, which help us to prevent injuries. For instance, when we are forward folding, to prevent a butt hamstring injury, it's very important to keep the Mula Bandha engaged. The second bandha, the Uddiyana Bandha, it's located just above the belly button. So the Uddiyana Bandha, Uddiyan means to fly, and this bandha is engaged just when we tuck the lower belly in slightly. So just a slight tuck. Of course, this is something that we might begin doing wrong, but the more we practice, the more we get a hang of how to do the Uddiyana Bandha correctly. So if you think about it, this power center is sort of linked to the whole upper body region. So if you were going to push a heavy weight or lift a heavy weight or do any activity that was requiring a lot of strain, physical strain, you would always do it with your stomach drawn in. So if you have to push a heavy weight or lift a heavy weight, you'd always draw your belly in. This is so that you're engaging your core muscles while using the Uddiyana Bandha. So the Uddiyana Bandha is the center of our core and our power. And with this bandha, as it gets stronger and as we activate it more during our practice, we feel a lightness and a grace. So it actually makes us fly on the mat. We are much lighter in our step. We are much lighter in our limbs, and the practice itself becomes less strenuous when we apply this bandha correctly. The third bandha is the Jalandhara Bandha. The Jalandhara Bandha is located at the throat. The Jalandhara Bandha literally means to stop the flow. So we are stopping the flow of energy from leaving out of our head, so to speak. But in more physical terms, what we can say is we are stopping the breath. So when we bring our chin to chest, we engage the Jalandhara Bandha. So we don't want to bring a double chin by bringing the head down like this. We want to keep the chin back and then down. So we don't want to come down like that, but we want to come like this. So actually we are creating a double chin. If we just go like this, we are not creating a double chin. So this, we just want it back slightly. So the Jalandhara Bandha is not used much in our asana practice. We use it in certain postures like our downward facing dog or Dandasana right before Paschimottanasana. So in certain places it is used, but it's not very important in the asana practice. The Jalandhara Bandha is more so used when we go into breath retentions that have to do with pranayam practice or breath work. So these three bandhas, when we, especially the Mula Bandha and the Uddiyana Bandha, when we learn how to engage them during the practice, and of course there's no over the board rule of how you must engage it, but ideally you must have them engaged throughout. So whether it's your inhale or your exhale, you want them engaged. And when you do that over time, and you also learn the alignment, the way your body is supposed to be in space while you're doing a particular posture, it becomes very automatic. You start to feel the flow of energy during the practice much better. You can really feel into the posture, into the micro muscles, the macro muscles, everything. The posture becomes a way for you to anchor your consciousness or your mind stream into. So all that we do in this Ashtanga Vinyasa practice is to try and anchor ourselves so that we are not wandering. So we have the breath which is linking us to the practice. I didn't mention about the breath, but another important component about the breath is the counting. So in Ashtanga, there's a counted method, which means that not only are we counting the breaths when we are inside a particular posture. So say I'm doing a particular posture, I'm not only counting the breaths when I'm in there, but I'm also counting the breaths when I transition from that posture to the next. So each transition has a set number of breaths, a set way to transition. And this is a very important aspect of the practice. So that is also helping us to anchor, because if we lose our stream of thought, if we start to think about something else, what happens is that we lose that count, we lose that momentum. So it actually requires a lot of awareness on the self, on the breath, on the body, to be able to match that counted method. And then of course we have the bandhas, the alignment, the posture itself, which is anchoring us. And the third thing is the drishti, is where we look during our practice. So oftentimes, if I'm sure all of us have practiced in a yoga studio, in a yoga class where the teacher is doing the posture and we're repeating, what tends to happen is our awareness is constantly being scattered. We are looking at the teacher and then doing the practice. While we're doing that, we're also looking at our fellow students, what they're up to, how are they practicing, how is their posture. And so there's this, sometimes studios have mirrors, so we're looking at ourselves in the mirror. So our practice is now an external process. It's no longer an internal process where we are trying to establish stability or a meditation during the practice. So when we have drishti, there are different types of drishtis. So there's drishti which is looking at your thumb, at your big toe, at the tip of your nose, and that's for another video to explain all the different types of drishtis. But basically we have these different points of gaze or anchoring in different postures. So ideally, when we can put these three elements together, this practice becomes a truly internal practice. Of course, this doesn't happen from day one, and it takes a lot of time to develop this way of practicing. But with time, once this becomes established, this practice can become like a refuge, a place that you come back to every single day to reconnect with yourself, to reconnect with your body, to reconnect with your mind, with your emotional state. And it's something that can give us a really strong anchor or grounding in a world where we are constantly busy and constantly stressed. That was just a short video about the Trishtan. Thank you for watching. Namaste.